So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we're joined by another great guest from 911 Podcast, the founder, Adam Murciano. Adam, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Seriously. I'm so happy to be on.
Oh, mate, it is a pleasure because do you know what? What is refreshing is that, podcasts are saturated at the moment. There's podcasts for everything, from grooming your dog to talking about, anything. So what you're doing is not only refreshing, but it's just great. But we're gonna talk about your two projects. One that's been around for a little while, that's gained so much traction, it's unbelievable, and a new one that's coming out on the 26th of September. But before we dive into Cascadia and Ice Cream, how's the last 2 years been for you over there with all this madness that's been going on, and how have you kept positive and moving forwards?
Well, first of all, it feels longer than 2 years. I don't know. It feels so long. But yeah, it's obviously very sad about everything in the world that's been going on, and people have been so affected by this kind of stuff. And I mean, that's kind of why I decided to do podcasts and all these things. What happened was actually like a day after COVID was first announced, I got dropped by my agent. I'm an actor first and foremost. So I got dropped by my agent. He was just clearing out people on his roster, I guess, who weren't booking enough. And I had a slow year that year, and he dropped me. And that was so devastating. I felt trapped. I was in this pandemic, like everybody, everybody lost work. Everybody, was struggling with their own thing. But for me personally, it was like, okay, I'm now in a new city that I'm not from. I lived in Vancouver. My family's from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I was like, shoot, like, what do I do? How do I get work? And so I turned to fiction podcasting because it's something I've always wanted to do for so long. And it was a way that I can still be creative and not need, like, I could do it on my own, isolated. I didn't have to have a whole crew of people. And so that last 2 years.
I mean, if you could tell all the lovely viewers and listeners, who are 911 podcasts and a bit about the show.
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, it was near the end of 2020. I was just trying to figure out how to keep creative. I have so many friends who are actors and so many friends who are in the business. And I was like, how can I do something that we can all just have a collaborative project? And so I ran into my old friend, longtime friend, Antonio Cordero, who directed both Ice Cream and Cascadia. He's a film director. And I approached him. I said, hey, would you be interested in taking on this audio project with me? I've never done this before. Neither has he. Would you be down to try it? And he said, of course. And so him and I both, we work together a lot on this. And then with Ice Cream, we have a new writer, Adam Blanford. So, we're expanding as well. And just it's such a collaborative thing, 911 podcast. I love working with actors and writers and musicians and all these things, and we kind of all come together and create this show for you to experience. So
out of what you mentioned earlier on, which must have been devastating by being dropped by your agent, now you're in control. Now you can actually decide what you do, which I think
exactly. Is cool. And I just feel like for so long, I love auditioning. I love, any opportunity I can get is amazing, and being on set. There's nothing like being on set. But as an actor, it's so tiring to just wait for that call, wait to get the audition, wait. All you can do is do your best in the audition, but that's it. You have no control over your career. So I took it into my own hands over the pandemic, and I said, I'm gonna start doing my own thing and working with amazing talent, and I could do this, and so that's what I did. And now I have an agent, and a new agent, and I'm auditioning again as well. But this is something that is so fulfilling to me as an artist because, again, I have control. Unlike a musician who can make their own music and write their own songs and record and put it out, actors don't really have that luxury. You have to wait till you get hired. So,
yeah. I mean, where do you see, this podcast being in like 10 years time? Because already it's gained traction. I mean, we're going to talk about Cascadia in a moment, but where do you see it going in 10 years?
I don't know. I mean, I just hope that I can still create good content and people enjoy it. And I want to tell various of stories, step into different shoes of different characters with different actors. And I want to expand and have a bunch of series for you to like have to see in our catalog, and to enjoy. And I don't know. I just, at the root of it, I guess, is I just hope that we can continue to create good content and entertain people. That's the goal.
I think what's great about these sort of podcasts is that, I always say, go into a dark room, put your headphones in, and literally you create the movie in your mind from what you're listening to. So it's not like watching it, a movie that's been based on a book, because you get so many critics and so many fans saying, well, it's not right. But this way, they can create that movie in their head, which I have done. But talking about you and your beginning, I mean, you saying you've done acting. I mean, you've been in Riverdale, Van Helsing, 12 Monkeys, Alphas, which I absolutely loved, that I can't believe they
awesome.
cancelled, which I absolutely love that show. And I forgot a name that was in Alphas that was in Van Helsing as well. I forgot a name now. It's going to really eat me up inside. But so you've done so well with that, and I look forward to seeing you on screen on other things. But at the moment, obviously, this show, Cascadia. So I got introduced to it by doing a bit of research, because I had Rebecca Kwan, who is so adorable. And
so adorable.
She's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And I noticed that she did this podcast. So I had a listen, and the best way to describe it is like an orgasm for your ears. That is the way... Because the thing is literally everything's going off, and the sound and the effects and how immersive it is, which is fantastic. I mean, tell me a bit about Cascadia. Tell the viewers and listeners why they should watch it. Listen to it.
Yeah.
But watch it in their minds. So if you could tell me a bit about that project.
So it's funny that you say that, because they call it theater of the mind. It's all in your mind. We give you as much as we can in terms of sound effects and acting and music to really just fill in the blanks. And we're very hesitant too with like posting our actors on our social media. We do usually when the show's already aired and it's, kind of had its run a bit. But for the first part, we kind of hold back because, like you said, we want you to really create that. It's like reading a book, you imagine the characters and stuff. But Cascadia, it's about this deep sea crew that goes to the bottom of the ocean. There's a new opening in the Cascadia subduction zone, and they go down to discover what's down there. It's the new deepest part of the ocean anyone has ever gone, and it's funded by a billionaire former diver named Wesley Badger. And he's like an Elon Musk type of character, and he gets really sick and he won't be able to go on the dive. So he enlists my character, Declan Walters, to be the captain. Now, Declan has never captained anything before, and all the other crew members are shocked that he's going to be the captain, because they're like, well, everyone else is more qualified than he is, And so there's all that tension going in, with Declan versus the crew. And Declan has to constantly have to try to prove himself, and constantly keeps on making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes until something very vital happens and almost fatal. There's a humongous creature that attacks the submarine, and it's because of his doing, and there's just so many more twists. I have to be careful with what I say, because the show just, the more episodes you get in, the more it's like an onion. It keeps on unveiling itself, and there's like a massive twist in episode 4. And to see people's reactions for that was so fun. I really didn't think anything of it. And well, I knew it was a big plot twist, but to see people's like real reactions was really cool. So yeah, check it out, Cascadia.
And I'm just reading some facts here. Over 100,000 global downloads already, and ranked in the top 2.5 of all podcasts according to Listen Notes, which I think is just incredible. And then obviously you went to the Toronto Comic Con. I mean, what was that experience like?
When you work on something like this, and like I said, this was my first project in a pandemic. I worked alone, editing wise, but I worked with the whole team, obviously recording it and making it. But, editing, you're so involved in your own world and you're doing it, and you don't know how people are going to react to it. So when you put it out and you see it doing so well, it's so like, I get emotional, because I'm just like, damn, like this thing, this our baby, is now getting heard by so many people. And going to Comic-Con, who would have thought? Not me. I would never have thought. And so to see people coming, and I also thought, because we did a panel, I was like, no one's gonna come, it's gonna be dead. And a lot of people showed up, and it was really cool to hear people asking questions and saying that they identified with certain characters and related to certain characters, and we met a bunch of people after, and it was just so cool. And again, reassuring that I could take the career in my own hands, and I don't have to wait for somebody else to do it for me.
That is awesome. And talking about the cast, I mean, the cast is
Yes.
awesome in Cascadia. So kudos to yourself and the rest of the voice actors. I mean, I noticed on social media that you didn't record remotely. You was actually in a studio. I mean, how did that work?
Yeah.
I mean, was that hard work during these
oh my gosh,
unprecedented times, as they call them?
Well, the cast is, like you said, I have so many talented actor friends like Rebecca and Lee and Sam, who were all part of the show, and they were my friends, and so I was so honored for them to come on board. And honestly, though, none of our performances could have been elevated without Antonio, our director, and he really was so in there with us, and he worked in this. He would be in the booth sometimes with us and be, okay, try this again, do it again, think about this. Like, he was very involved, and I'm so thankful for him. But recording, we were in a pandemic, right? So that was it was near the end of that whole lockdown stuff. So we were able to kind of go, but originally we did it over Zoom, and we all recorded each actor on their own. We didn't do it on a Zoom together. We did each actor on their own. They all did their own scenes, their own lines. I would say, do it again. We would be with Antonio. We'd all be doing it a million times. And Antonio would tell me, he's like, Adam, you're crazy of audio from each actor. This is gonna be a nightmare to edit. And I said, no, I want the best take. And he was right. He was right. I was left with all this audio, and then I was piecing it together. It took me months, like a month, to put it all together for one episode. And I sent it to like a friend who was so far removed from this. She wasn't in the world at all, this audio world. I said, let me hear what you think about this. And she said, it sounds cool. The story's cool, but I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't sound like you're all in the same room. And that's because we weren't. And she was right. And I thought, and it bothered me. It bothered me that she noticed that. And not because she was honest, but because if she noticed it, then everybody else will notice that. You know what I mean? And so I remember one day I called Antonio, and I was very nervous to call him this, but I called him and I said, hey, would you hate me if I scrapped everything and we all went to the studio instead? And he said, Adam, thank God. He's like, thank God. He's like, it's going to make the project so much better. And so we found a great studio in Vancouver, and we went. And like you said, it was so much better to do that because we were able to work off of each other and react in real time and improv. And it was just more organic. Yeah.
I mean, I've got one of the questions here on how stressful is the whole process of putting everything together, because you've got you've got the talent, you've got the sound effects, you've got the music. I mean, how stressed was you during that process? And how long did it take, to record everything and produce it?
Yeah. So for me, like, I guess you can say the easy way to say, okay, this is a good take from everybody. Let me just slap it in and put the sound effects, and that's it. I don't work that way, though. I want everybody to shine in the scene. I want everyone to have their best moments and best takes. So if I hear you are better on take 2, but I like take 1 better, I'll make sure that I get that little piece and put it into take the edit room and everything. So I'm very particular with each actor and hearing each take, and it takes me about 8 hours to do a 3-minute scene. So that's kind of how it works, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of tedious. But I'm very detailed, and I'm a perfectionist, unfortunately, because it slows me down. But the whole process from beginning to end, I would say probably took a year. It took a year, but now I'm getting way faster at it. With Ice Cream, the new show, it only took us 2 months to do. So,
I mean, obviously with the traction, and say we're talking about 10 years. I mean, have you got a dream cast that you'd like to work with? Someone that you could be stood opposite the sound booth?
Oh my God. That's such a good question. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed by that. I don't know. First of all, I love working with my friends. So I love working with them, and it's so much fun to do that. But I feel like I would love to work with Will Smith. Will Smith would be fun. Johnny Depp would be a lot of fun. Meryl Streep, of course. Like, all these amazing actors. I like Hollywood A-listers. That would obviously be the dream. So Yeah.
And Meryl Streep, she would probably gladly do it. She seems very down to earth and
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
accommodating, which I just think that makes her so
Totally.
fabulous. I mean,
Yeah. She just,
Death Becomes Her is
yeah.
one of my favorite movies,
Of
with her
course.
and
Yes.
Goldie Hawn.
Yes.
So yeah. So let's talk about ice cream, because
Okay.
everyone
Yes.
loves ice cream, right? Well,
Everyone loves
think
ice
again,
cream.
because after listening to this, they may think twice. I kindly, by Adam, have had a listen to the first episode, and I turned off the
Yes.
lights. I put my headphones in, my earpods. I literally made sure I was in a quiet room, and literally, no lie, it gave me chills. The hairs on the back of my neck. It was the most creepiest, disturbing experience I've ever had. I don't know if it's because I'm a parent as well. And no lie, when I finished the episode, an ice cream van came on our road.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes. And literally, it made me chuckle because I thought, maybe not. So, so if you could if you could tell us a bit about it, because obviously it's coming up on the 26th of September,
Yes.
which is just around the corner. A bit about your
Totally.
new project, which you play Mr. Handsome.
I do.
Which
Yes.
is an awesome character. If you could tell us a bit about the show and who you're going to be voicing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying that, and thank you for listening. Like I said earlier, you spend so much time editing, and you work on this alone when you're an editor, and you have no idea how people are going to like it or whatever. So to hear you say that, that's very assuring. So thank you. But yeah, Ice Cream is like Cascadia. Each episode gets darker and darker. It's like peeling an onion. There's a lot of things that get revealed and happen. But it's about this teen boy, Elgin Foster, who leaves his home from Denver and goes to spend the summer with his newly divorced father, Bobby, and with his little brother, Dustin, who's about 9 years old. And there's a bunch of kids in the area that start to go missing. And Elgin starts to witness that it's the ice cream man. But nobody believes him. No one is believing him. Elgin just recently had a concussion, so maybe he's thinking it could be his mind playing games with him. And it isn't until he meets his neighbor, Olivia, that she starts to believe him. She's a 15-year-old girl, too. And they, too, start to do their own little investigation and try to figure out who Mr. Handsome, this ice cream man, is, why they call him Mr. Handsome, and what he's doing with these little kids. It's not what you think. And it's twisted, and it's really dark, and it gets worse and worse and worse. So
Wow.
Listen with caution, please.
Yeah. I mean it's just literally haunting. I think anything with the sound of, you posted a teaser of the girls singing, and that alone brought chills to the back of my head, because anything to do with kids in horror movies, forget animals, forget ghosts, poltergeists, anything to do with kids, it freaks me the hell out. So when making go on.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's that I actually had to call Antonio, who also directed this at one point. I said, "Is this too much? Like what we're doing? Is this too dark?" And he said, "No, Adam, this is, we're good." So that I had to have a moment there and think, I don't know if this is okay, because it goes there. So yeah.
Well, if it gets darker, wow. But when making something like this, what is your intention for the listeners to experience?
For me, it's all about vibes. And when it comes to soundscapes, I love to do kind of an aesthetic. Like a film has aesthetics. Like I love having aesthetics. With Cascadia, it was very much futuristic aesthetics, submarine, underwater, very that kind of vibe. But with this, this kind of experience it's very 80s. We have vaporwave, synth music, dark ambient music. I want that feeling of like a suburban summer, streetlights, ice cream truck. It's that feeling that you get, and with a twist of horror, and it's I don't know. And there's a great line in there that one of the officers say, since when did the ice cream man become Pennywise, the new Pennywise? And, people were saying, oh, this reminds me of Pennywise, and, Mr. Handsome, he mirrors people. He mirrors whoever he's talking to. So if he's talking to a child, he acts like a child. If he talks to an adult, he acts mature. So vocally, it was fun for me to go there, and play all that kind of range. And you'll hear that throughout the show.
And it's funny you say the 80s, so without giving anything away, I got that vibe as well, because there is a bit in there without ruining, well, it won't ruin it, but something to do with the camera running out of film.
Yes.
And I was like,
yes.
running out of film? Kids now wouldn't even know what film is for a camera.
They wouldn't.
So that was a great touch. And Hunter Dillon, that plays Elgin, is just superb.
So talented. Yeah, he's so talented, and I found his demo by accident. I was just on a casting page and I saw his demo, and he was one of the first people I saw or heard, and I said, this is him. I don't need to audition anybody else. I want him for this project, and he was so great, and worked so hard in the studio too.
And talking about actors, I mean, how do you actually find them? I mean, do you put a casting call out, or is it a case of searching for demo reels, as you mentioned? How do you actually find them?
So for Cascadia, it was easy because it was all my friends. It was all people that I knew. I think we did like one or two castings on a casting page for, I think, Badger and maybe somebody else in like the little more smaller roles. But for this show, it was difficult because we had to cast kids, and I don't know kids. I don't really, right? So I was like, we have to go through agents.
You should get your ice cream van out there. You'll meet
right, exactly. What a good way to cast, right? But I didn't. So we had to go through agents. We had to go through the union because there was minors now, working hours and things. So there was a bunch of like. So yeah. So I what I did was I spent a lot of time. We actually didn't do a lot of casting calls at all for this. We did. We went on a casting page and people posted their demos and stuff, and I would just go look and listen through all these demos. I would search a certain age, and because I have a vision in mind, right? Me and Antonio, we knew what we wanted, and so yeah.
And then I found something very interesting on your Twitter. So obviously how disturbing this show is to listen to make an edit, and the amount of hours that you spent editing. You put something on Twitter as well, that when you spend 12 to 16 hours a day editing, then you go to bed and have vivid graphic nightmares and wake up shaking. Was that, did that really affect you?
Because like I said, I work on the show sometimes 13 to 14 hours of editing, and it sounds crazy, but I love it. I enjoy it. And oftentimes I finish at 4 in the morning, and I go to bed, and I woke up shaking, drenched in sweat, to the point where I had that nightmare where I literally took a moment to think if it was real, if it actually happened. And I am not a religious person, but I said, thank you, God. It's not real. This is not real. So it was like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And this obviously lets the viewers and listeners sort of know what to expect with listening to Ice Cream. So let's talk about 911 Plus.
Yes.
Because this is because we all watch shows like Walking Dead, and they always have, the after show. And this sounds really exciting. If you can tell us about 911 Plus.
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate enough to get now sponsors and people who want to advertise on our shows. And so, we spend so much time, as you know, and working on the show and editing and things, and we don't really make much money off of it. So now to get ads and sponsors, it's great. But, I understand people don't want to hear that sometimes. You want to really, because it's immersive, you want to really fall into the show and not be interrupted by an ad. So we're offering now 911 Plus, where you can subscribe for a small fee on Apple Podcasts, and it's a monthly or yearly fee. And you can get all the shows ad-free. You can get bonus content. We're even going to be putting out the whole show, so both Ice Cream and Cascadia, as a long form, like a movie. So you can listen to it all in one kind of setting instead of changing episodes. Great for car rides, road trips, that kind of stuff. And we're also doing a new show called Conversations. So we're doing, each episode is going to be kind of like a pull of the curtain of the actors who've been featured on Cascadia and Ice Cream. And, for about 45 minutes to an hour, we really go into their careers, who they are, what they like about acting, what their experience was like working on either show, and just a bunch of things, just getting to know the actor a bit. Because I feel like if you're now going to subscribe to this page, this channel, you're going to want to know these people, right? Who you've been listening to. So that's really fun. And with Ice Cream, we're going to be doing each episode, as a new episode airs of Ice Cream, we're going to match it with the episode of Conversations, which is the talk show that we're doing, with a new actor of that week of the show. If that makes sense. So episode 1 will feature an actor from Ice Cream. Episode 2 will feature another actor from Ice Cream. That kind of stuff. So, yeah.
That sounds all.
I don't know if I explained that right, but
no. That was perfect. Understood everything. And obviously, fans and listeners can also support the channel other ways, or is that the way that you'd like them to support the channel?
As of right now, that's the way. But we're looking at and doing other things like Patreon and things that people who don't have Apple, we do other platforms as well. But right now, it's just we're doing Apple for now. Yeah.
And so we've had underwater adventures. And we're soon to have a chilling experience with Ice Cream. So what's next? I mean, season 2 of Cascadia?
So Ice Cream is a limited series, so it's only going to be one season. It ends on episode 6, which airs on Halloween. But Cascadia, yes, season 2, we are right now working on season 2. So I know people have been waiting. People have been asking. We are working on it. Hopefully it comes out early 2023. And Brian, my brain is exploding. I have so many ideas, so many concepts, so many people who I want to work with, and all these things that are happening. And I'm just so excited for the next year. There's going to be so much content coming. Yeah.
And looking back to when you started all of this, I mean, what's been the biggest lesson for you learnt, from the moment you started to now?
I think... You mean in like the audio world or as an actor?
Yeah, no, it's from starting the podcast to now.
I would say, the devils are in the detail for sure. Like take that time to put the details in the show, into the editing, take your time with casting, with recording. Like all these things matter, and you're doing a show, and podcasts are so personal. You're listening it usually just to you by yourself. So little things like that are very important. And I learned that throughout the whole process. And also be careful with who you share your script with. I've had some things leak. Yeah. Yes.
I think that's a story for another time.
That's a story for another time.
Let's not direct that to anyone in particular.
Nope. Don't want a lawsuit.
So if there's any budding voice artists out there, and they want to potentially audition for you in the future, is there a way? Is there a contact for you?
Totally. I would love to include like audience members in shows. I think that would be so fun and immersive too in another way. But yeah, you could follow our Instagram at 911 podcasts, one word, numbers 911 podcasts, and our Twitter 911_podcasts. We follow people back. We interact. So yeah, get on our radar. We have so many things in the works and in development right now. Always looking for new talent. Always.
That is awesome. Adam, you've been a great guest. And
thank you.
I want everyone to listen to Cascadia, then to Ice Cream. But I'll tell you what, if you can listen to Ice Cream, just I know, be in a dark room and just sort of set the environment around you, because it does make a difference. And the 26th of September, I presume it's going to be available on all podcast platforms?
All podcast platforms. And like I said, on 911 Plus on Apple, you will be able to get it ad-free. So,
and remember, subscribe. I think is it $2.99 a month?
$2.99. Yep.
That's nothing, and you get so much more. You get behind the scenes. You get all the frills. Get subscribing. I will make sure I will subscribe as well, because it's awesome. And it's great to find stuff that you didn't, that you weren't looking for. I think it's great when you find these hidden gems. But Adam, look after yourself. Keep safe. Stay super.
Thank you.
And I look forward to Ice Cream and episode 2, because I can't wait. I really can't.
Thank you so much for having me.